Everyone thinks that Love Island made Olandria famous, but I don't think that's actually where this story begins. Because according to Olandria, she had been speaking this over her life for years before anyone knew her name. So today I want to walk you through Olandria's story and how she manifested going from being a small town girl selling elevator parts in Alabama to becoming the newest it girl with fame that landed her on the cover of magazines and at the height of pop culture. Because I think it's something the law of assumption teaches us over and over again. Your circumstances don't create your identity eventually creates your circumstances. But before we dive into this, be sure to subscribe because I post new videos every single week. Before becoming one of the most beloved contestants in Love Island history and in pop culture in general, Olandria's life looked pretty ordinary from the outside looking in. She grew up in Decatur, Alabama, as the oldest of 6 children in a single-parent household. Her mom emphasized education, values, and hard work from a very early age. So after graduating from Tuskegee University, Olandria moved to Houston and spent 3 years working in the elevator industry, where she sold elevator parts. Not the most interesting job, but here's what's fascinating. Even though she was working a 9-to-5 sales job, she never truly identified with it. She explained that as a child, she always dreamed of becoming a model. She was obsessed with models like Tyra Banks and Naomi Campbell. She'd watch America's Next Top Model constantly and even practice modeling expressions and smizing in the mirror. But because modeling opportunities weren't available in the small town where she grew up, and her family couldn't afford agencies, that dream slowly got pushed to the side. Notice I didn't say the dream disappeared. It just got buried underneath reality.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to college as a backup plan. Like, I'm going to be a model. I don't know. So as a kid, I kind of lost sight of it because being from a small town in Alabama, like, what connections do you have as far as like modeling? So for a minute, there was like a distant memory for me.
And I think that's where a lot of people stop. But Olandria didn't. She saw this as a temporary stop along her journey. One of the most fascinating moments from an interview with her wasn't about Love Island at all. It was about her job. She said that while sitting on Teams calls, she would literally look at her own picture on the screen and tell herself,
Like, oh, you're not supposed to be here, Olandria. Literally, like a glam shot. I'm like, girl, this is selling elevator parts. This is cool, but it's like, this is not your reality. Like, it has to be something bigger than this.
That line stopped me in my tracks, y'all. Because this is exactly what Neville Goddard meant when he talks about living from a new identity. Notice she wasn't saying, I hate my job. She wasn't saying, my circumstances are terrible. She wasn't complaining at all. She was simply refusing to let her current environment and circumstances define who she believed she really was. She had a corporate job, but she didn't identify as someone whose life ended there. So she still saw herself as someone destined for something bigger. That is self-concept. Then comes my favorite part of this story.
So crazy because even when I started my job 3 years ago, I would always joke with my coworkers, like, I'm not going to be here long. I'm going to be famous. Like, I'm going to be famous. And like, they're just like, oh, what you going to do? OnlyFans? Like, fucking men. I'm like, well, no, but I'm going to be famous. And they were like, well, famous what? I'm like, because I'm pretty.
Now, here's where it really gets interesting. After Love Island, fans started digging through her old social media posts, of course. And there was one tweet from August of 2024 that said, if I could model full time, a 9-to-5 would never see me again. This wasn't while she was at Love Island. This wasn't after the magazine covers. It wasn't after the millions of followers. This was before any of that, before she had ever seen a path to it. So again, she wasn't waiting for permission to believe that she was meant for more. She already believed it. Now, here's where I think people misunderstand manifestation. They think believing means doing nothing. Olandria's story shows the opposite. Love Island had actually reached out to her not once, not twice, but 3 years in a row. The first 2 times she said no. She admitted that she was afraid. She had this stable job, a degree, security. Then something changed.
I was like, you know what? I was at a rough spot with my job. I was like, you know what? I'm stressed. I'm depressed all the time. I don't have kids. I don't even have pets. But it's like, why am I even putting myself through this? I was like, you know what? I'm going to find a loophole and go on the show and if everything works out, I'm gonna have like a brighter future for myself, you know?
Yeah.
So I just stepped out on faith and did it because the first 2 years I was too scared to. I was tunnel vision.
She prayed and literally asked God, if it's in the cards for me to do this in 2025, put it back on the list. Then she intentionally kept her schedule open. So, no vacation, no summer plans. She made room for the opportunity. To me, that sounds like preparation and positive expectation. And then they called again. This is what Neville called the bridge of incidents. The bridge isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just simply saying yes to the opportunity that aligns with where you're going or your new identity. Now, near the end of this interview, Olandria says something that perfectly summarizes everything.
It's so crazy because my supporters have been finding my old tweets. Oh my gosh, it is so insane how much I just spoke over my life in the past few years and how everything is coming into fruition now. Wow. So like I always said, like, oh, I wanted to go to Disneyland and all these things. Like, made that happen immediately. Never been to Europe. He made sure I was a part of his campaign trip to where it's paid for and I was able to go to Europe for the first time and went to Greece. Like,
this really speaks to her manifestation and self concept abilities because she's not saying, I got lucky. She's not saying, I manifested this overnight. She's describing years of speaking a new story about herself before anyone else could see it because words and mindset are so powerful. And then she listed examples: traveling, Europe, modeling opportunities, magazine covers, dreams she had thought about for years, beginning to happen one after another. So I don't think that Olandria's story is really about Love Island. Love Island was just the catalyst. It was the bridge of incidents, the opportunity. But the transformation had already started years before. When she looked at herself during Teams meetings and said, this is not my reality. When she told her coworkers with conviction, I'm going to be famous. When she refused to let a small town, a corporate job, or a lack of connections define who she believed she was. That is the lesson that I hope you take away from this. Manifestation isn't pretending that your current circumstances don't exist. It's refusing to let them have the final say over who you are. Because eventually, if you persist in that new identity, your outer world has no choice but to catch up. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments what resonated with you the most and who you'd like me to break down next. And of course, if you've enjoyed this video or found it helpful, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more manifestation content like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.